Thank you, Andy. Thank you, everyone, for coming. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what happens when you reach this idea of platform as a product to some extent. I guess most of you know by now we have launched the second edition of Team Topologies recently. One of the main things is there are 10 new case studies, and some of these, in particular, the Adidas one, but also how ING Bank went about thinking about platforms at the kind of broader scale, right? Not just what you do with one platform, but how do you kind of scale it across the organization. So we're going to look at some of those insights today. So this idea of the platform as a product, right? Something that has internal customers, that provides specific value, meets certain user needs, is very powerful and has helped many organizations. So if you're doing something along those lines, you probably are doing, discovery of internal user needs. You are sharing success stories so that more people get to know how does the platform help our internal teams, what can you do with it, etc. You're probably signposting challenges as well, which is an important part, that the platform is not always going to work wonderfully. So you're helping people understand, when is there going to be some downtime, or is there an incident? What are we doing about it? Basically managing your user expectations as well. You're probably measuring, and yesterday and today we've heard a lot about measuring the value of the platform. So you might be looking at what is the adoption of the platform in a kind of more organic way. So we're not mandating the platform, we're seeing teams actually embrace it because they see how it's helping, how it can help. You're looking at what is the satisfaction of your users. Is it, hopefully you're looking at in some way, is the cognitive load on the teams that use the platform going down? Are we helping them speed up, be faster, be able to do things in an easier way? Like I mentioned, ING Bank, so especially, ING is headquartered in the Netherlands, so the case study is mostly based on the work in the Netherlands. They did invest in these ideas of platform as a product. They focus a lot on how do we productize our internal platforms so that they're easy to consume by our teams. They have a quite interesting goal, which is that they expect platforms to be able to onboard new teams and new users within 30 minutes. So it's kind of an interesting objective that what do you need to do to make sure the platform can be easily understood and start getting benefit from it within 30 minutes. It's quite ambitious, actually. But it kind of sets the stage of their mindset about why platform is important, how should they be productized. One of the quotes from the case studies, they're saying that internal products are well documented, have transparent funding models, and can be adopted and tested rapidly, akin to external cloud services. I think that's a pretty good kind of mindset. Is everything perfect and everything is a wonderful internal platform as a product? Probably no, but at least they're setting the stage to, this is our expectation. This is some kind of indication that the platforms are being useful and they're being going to be used. So I want to say congrats to everyone who has been trying to espouse these ideas of platform as a product. It's not easy, and I think many talks yesterday touched upon that. It's sometimes a long path, and you have to change also the mindset in the organization. So I think it's worth that we take a moment to congratulate yourselves if you're on this path, and it has a lot of challenges. However, it's not like this wonderful rainbow. We have platform as a product, everything's perfect, right? So some of the things, maybe you can call them some anti-patterns or some situations I've seen in different organizations that are on this platform as a product approach, include, for example, where the platform just keeps growing, right? You have this huge platform and this huge platform team that sometimes goes up to maybe 20 people, 30 people trying to be one team. So that's not very sustainable, right? So what happens, especially on the platform side, is probably people are feeling like this. Their head is exploding because we have so many different users. We're trying to offer all these different services. And now the platform team is overloaded and they cannot really cope. And this is not going to be good in the long run for the platform itself, right? So one thing we tried to clarify in the second edition of Team Topologies, which I guess naively we thought was implicit in the first edition, but it was not always clear. When we talk about platform team, when you go beyond kind of a small scale, obviously it's more of a streamlined team that's working inside the platform grouping, right? You need to organize inside the platform group to understand, okay, which kind of services, which kind of user needs do we meet or are we trying to deliver, and which teams do we need to have aligned to those, right? So the same kind of streamlined team that we talk about for end products, we should be thinking about for platform teams, right? That you have these teams that have end-to-end ownership or stewardship of some kind of internal platform service or tool or something of value to your internal customers, right? So hopefully the team can understand the users of this service. They can actually change it. They can provide support to the internal platform service, right? As independently as possible. So I want to shout out to the book. Rich is over there. He published recently this book, User Needs Mapping, which has a specific chapter about how to align internal platforms around user needs, right? When you're trying to do this kind of thing, where you're saying, we have the logical platform that provides related services, but then inside we organize around kind of the streams or services within the platform. You need to understand what user needs are these services meeting, right? Who are they meant for? How are they helping our internal users? So I'm really happy to see the book from Rich, and hopefully can give some insights on how do we actually figure out which teams should exist within the big platform, and what services or streams they should be aligned to, right? And it's kind of a Russian doll pattern where you might have some internal platform, which in itself has other stream-aligned kind of teams working in the platform as a product. So we can think about some examples. Maybe we have a platform that is around continuous delivery and monitoring, and maybe there's a kind of inner platform, a lower platform that's more about providing infrastructure that these services use to run their own, their own services. So these teams use to run their own continuous delivery monitoring service as an example, right? But we need to be realistic about capacity and organize around streams of value inside the platforms. Obviously, we can't do everything, and that's part of the danger also when we have one big platform team. It's harder to say no, right? Why are we not going to do this other request if we're already doing this other 40 things, right? But if we're aligned to streams, we can understand better, okay, does this fit into the service and the kind of value that we're providing within the platform or not? Going back to the example from ING, of course, they have very strong product management inside the platforms as well. So they're saying that they're essential in defining the strategy, understanding the needs of internal consumers, and ensuring the platform contributes to the overall organizational objectives, right? So you're having the platform meet the internal user needs, but also the organizational objectives, right? What is the strategy from a technology point of view? Are we going that direction, or are we getting distracted in the platform by all these other kind of less strategic aspects that because we're getting requests from different teams or different departments, right? So again, and I think this has been highlighted in the conference, product management is really important inside platform. So again, congrats if we're doing platform as a product or we're trying to get there. However, we also might see things like this. Welcome to our CI/CD data cloud FinOps design streaming platform. Right? So you start to see these big platforms. Even if you have multiple teams aligned to services or streams, you still have this huge platform that does too many things. I think actually a good heuristic to figure out if platform is too big and maybe should be split is if you lose your breath when you're saying the name of the platform, right? Like I did. So definitely we need to be considering when should we split and have different platforms around different domains, essentially. So an interesting example, actually this case study is not in the second edition of the book. Unfortunately, we couldn't publish all of them, but it's available on our website. It's from NAV, it's an agency in the public sector in Norway. And there's this quote from their director of platforms, essentially. She was saying, we have a small number of coherent internal platforms, not a cumbersome single platform. So I think this really speaks to the problem of we just keep growing and have this huge platform that does too many things. And this starts creating confusion in your users, starts to make it very difficult also to prioritize what should we work on and what we shouldn't work on. So some other heuristics that we can think about to when should we split, when should we think about different platforms. We can take a user view, right? The users of the platform. Do they expect services to be coherent and have similar interfaces? Then they probably should be part of the same platform. Or do the users actually expect, these are different types of services. I expect they have different interfaces, different ways of using them. So I want to bring in an example which might look a bit awkward. So bear with me. I have this weird thing that I'm always thinking about platforms. So this is from over there in the men's bathroom. So when I first used the lavatory there, you actually have different interfaces where you have the sensor, so you have to wave your hand to get the water to come out, but then you have to push the knob to get the soap, and you have to pull the paper down, right? So if this was a platform, you kind of would expect these interfaces to be the same and everything with sensors, right? So you sometimes see that in public bathrooms. Everything is with a sensor, to the water, the soap, and also you dry your hands with using the sensor, right? It's not a big deal. You quickly understand how it works, but from a user perspective, it's like, why are these different things, right? And you can even then think, okay, if this was more coherent, more consistent, then it would all work in the same way. What about, but when you go to flush the toilet, you don't expect it to be working the same way with a sensor, right? Because it's essentially a different type of system or service if you're thinking from a platform perspective. So that's from a user point of view. What do they expect to be coherent and consistent with similar interfaces, and what do they expect to be different? And then we can look at the team view, so the internal platform teams. Are they feeling like we are working for very different user personas, there are very different use cases? Then maybe there's something there where we might need to consider maybe we should have different platforms, perhaps, because maybe we are trying to do too much for very different parts of the organization, very different use cases. And this touches a bit upon the idea of centralizing versus decentralizing platforms, which I'll come back to in a minute. Another heuristic can be if you take a business view, is the platform still useful when we use it more broadly? So useful in the sense of, does it still help reduce cognitive load on the users of the platform? Does it still help accelerate the users of the platform? So I have one example recently, one kind of big airline in South America, they had exactly this problem where they had built this platform which was mostly focused on their website development. So the platform was providing some helpful services, and they were like, actually, this should be the same platform for our mobile apps and for other technology. But turns out it's not so easy because the platform was built for the specific needs of the web development teams, right? So yes, there are some things that can be transposed to a mobile environment, but not everything. So actually, just trying to make the platform fit all the use cases is not a really good approach in their case. They realized actually it's a bit more complicated than that. There are some things that can be exposed to other technology, but some things are specific to the web part, and that's fine, because that's where it still provides value for different parts of the organization. Again, congrats if we're on platform as a product path. However, this is another one I see a lot. We need to centralize all the best practices, so we have all these centralized platforms. And the problem with that, as in this example I was giving from the South American Airlines, is that we're trying to make things work for everyone that are not supposed to work for everyone. They have a specific context where they are actually helpful. And when we try to make it work for everyone, they become less helpful, they become more cumbersome. So again, the ING Bank is an interesting example where they actually expect platforms to start at the kind of the tribe level. So they use the Spotify model terminology. They are arranged into tribes. So they expect the platforms to start and emerge at the tribe level. Within the tribe, we identified some need, whether it's more technical or more related to product development or something else, where it would be helpful to have some kind of internal platform, something smallish that helps the teams within the tribe. Maybe it's up to 10 teams or 15 teams, so fairly small. They identify some commonalities that different teams are doing that could benefit from having internal platform. And then, as these platforms demonstrate broader applicability, they may evolve to a higher level, potentially becoming global. So they have this expectation of kind of promoting the platforms that turn out to be more broadly applicable and usable outside of a single tribe, and then they'll start to be used by other tribes. But they have this intentional approach of, we're going to figure out if this makes sense. We're not starting from the point of, well, we create a centralized platform for everyone to use, because that's usually not very effective. Of course, the other side, you might get to people saying, oh, we have too many platforms. I don't even know what exists, what I can use in my specific scenario. But there are things you can do to mitigate that. In their case, they expect platform teams to manage internal stakeholders and exhibit different behaviors as their products are consumed by multiple tribes. So again, setting expectations for the platform teams as well, that if you are kind of being promoted, between quotes, from a tribe level platform to a kind of more broadly used platform, you're going to need to understand different stakeholders, different needs, and manage their expectations as well. It's not a matter of just, well, now let's make the API accessible to everyone, or it's not just a technical issue. It's much more, do we actually understand what this other tribe needs and how they're working? How does this integrate in their workflows? Maybe we need to change some things to make it more usable, more friendly. And they also ensure discoverability. Obviously, in the kind of enterprise setting, you need to make sure things are discoverable. So they use a central marketplace with consistent naming conventions, and obviously a lot of sharing inside the organization, what exists, how can certain platforms be helpful for other tribes, and so on. Essentially, what we're saying is this requires some intentionality, some effort to make sure we make the best out of the platforms we have, and they have the scope that makes sense based on actual empirical evidence, like Dave Farley was talking yesterday, right? We understand based on talking to people and understanding their needs that this is kind of a more broadly applicable platform. We don't start there trying to make things work for everyone. And again, we should congratulate ourselves on this platform as a product path. But sometimes we get funding issues, and sorry, it's the economy, we need to cut, and the platform is the first one we start cutting. There were some mentions yesterday about, I think 60% of platform engineering initiatives don't meet the impact, don't deliver the impact that they were expected. I think someone also mentioned most initiatives after don't survive, let's say, the first 18 months intact, meaning there's cuts, or even I've seen an example where essentially from one day to another, the whole kind of data platform was canceled, where they were trying to really take in this platform as a product approach. They had great ideas, but someone had to make a decision, and because it was not clear why are we investing so much in this platform, it was cut from one day to another. So, and this has been mentioned before in the conference, we need to measure the value of what we're doing, right? So another case study in the second editions from Adidas, they have really interesting approaches over the last 10, 15 years. They invested a lot in their platform engineering group. So if you look up some of the talks from Adidas on their platform engineering, you'll find really interesting stuff. This is an example from one of their talks where they're talking about the value of the platform. Like they have an internal digital platform. And if you look at it, it's not really about which services does the platform provide or what are the metrics, the service-specific metrics. This is what is the value to the business, what is the value to our internal teams. We're saving time, we're saving costs, we're accelerating delivery and all that. So essentially, they're talking a business language, right? So to me, this needs to be a concern from day zero of a new platform. It's not something you can leave up to, well, in 18 months, we're going to figure out what was the value and talk to the stakeholders. That's going to be too late, basically. You need to start with day one. And if you start with this focus, it's going to help you probably make better decisions about what should we invest in terms of what we're building in the platform. Because, again, it needs to be a balance between your internal user needs and requests and kind of the business strategy and the technology strategy, right? So to finish, I just wanted to mention what I see as 4 pillars for platform success and sustainability. And this is something that, for me, has evolved over time since the book was published and platform engineering kind of took center stage. The first pillar I see is that the platform needs to be trusted, right? And when we're talking about platform, it's not just the technical services and tools and so on. It's actually the people that work in the platform need to be trusted. I think Tolly yesterday was talking about hand-holding your users, meaning partially you're building trust with the users of the platform by showing that your goal is to help them. It's not to build the stuff. That's kind of a side effect, if you like, something we're going to need to do, build these services, but we're here to help our internal customers. And that generates trust in the platform teams and the platform group. We need to share success stories because as much as we like to think of ourselves, so we're purely data-driven, everyone is driven by data plus the stories that you hear that you connected to, right? So showing how the platform has helped the different teams. We need internal confidence, usually through metrics, which might revolve around platform adoption, satisfaction of our users, what's the reliability of the platform. And actually, I used to think that if you can show these metrics, the business will understand the value of the platform. But actually, I think today is more of an internal thing if you want to figure out if we're going the right direction inside the platform. But you need this 4th pillar, which is kind of the external confidence from your stakeholders, especially on the business side, right? So you want to be able to talk about, what are the P&L metrics around the platform. How are we helping maybe control costs? Because sometimes that's going to be the focus of a company. How do we reduce costs? How do we control our spending? Other times you will need to be able to talk about how are we helping reduce the time to market or time to value of the product teams or streamline teams in product. How are we helping with flow, right? So this is something that I realized over time, that metrics is not just any metric. We need to understand what's helping us figure out we're going the right direction internally, but also what do other people who are often making decisions about funding and investment, what do they need to understand so that they see the value of the platform. And I'm getting to the end. I just wanted to mention again, if people were here at the beginning of the day, not related directly to platform, but we are running this survey, was just launched on Team Cognitive Load. We're trying to get data on what is affecting the most in terms of cognitive load drivers in the industry. So if you can share and fill in the survey, that would be great. And just want to mention, we also have a bunch of resources on our website around platform engineering from obviously more an organizational perspective and value flow perspective. And with that, I'm finished and happy to answer questions if there's time. Thank you.